Joining me now, Professor Callum Littlejohns, Deputy Director at Cornerstone. Professor, thank you so much for giving me the time.
Thanks for having me.
And we wanted to talk because we're following this big story earlier this week about NVIDIA investing $4 billion, $2 billion to Coherent, $2 billion to Lumentum, and kind of what this means for the position of silicon photonics and how it's kind of having this moment. So tell me right now what this deal kind of represents for the moment for silicon photonics.
I think it's a huge vote of confidence in the technology. So the numbers are obviously very big. It's fairly clear like what the intention of these deals is about. It's about bringing deeper integration with the various parts of the photonic chips. Lumentum and Coherent are the world leaders in particularly laser technologies, right? So this is all about integrating light sources for the NVIDIA's co-packaged optics solutions. So I think that's what their intentions are with this, but for the wider ecosystem, it helps bolster the supply chain in general, right? Having the world's biggest companies working in the technology helps to mature the supply chain, which then subsequently provides opportunities in other sectors as well, not just co-packaged optics, AI data centers, which is what's driving this relationship, at least to my understanding.
Certainly, and it is a very exciting moment too. And it seems like and in our audience, we're Photonic Spectra. We live and breathe photonics. We love it, and certainly Cornerstone is very well versed in silicon photonics. But for people who are not as familiar with this industry, is this something that's kind of forcing people to take notice of photonics, that maybe you're just an investor, or maybe you're just reading the paper and you say, well, what are these companies doing that NVIDIA is giving them $1 billion? Is this a moment that is bringing more attention to photonics from people who may have previously not even thought about this industry?
Absolutely, yeah. I think that's very clear, and that can only be a good thing. Like those of us in the field are obviously very familiar with the benefits of what the technology can offer. But I do very much see that photonics in general does have a weakness in terms of general awareness of it, because it's an underpinning technology. It can often get almost like forgotten about. So the fact that there's these big announcements and lots of things going on, it helps raise awareness with the public, with investors, with other companies who are thinking maybe we need to get into this field, also with policymakers.
Mm-hmm. And is this putting other companies on watch too? Because if you are a tech giant not investing in photonics, is this a moment of we better get on this or we're going to get left behind in the dust?
Well, I think so, yeah. But if you look at the top 10 biggest companies in the world, I had a quick analysis of this recently. Actually, the top 8 are all investing in silicon photonics to varying degrees. So I think we haven't yet had such a big announcement as earlier this week in terms of the numbers involved. So I think it's clear that there is definitely confidence in the field, in the technology. It's here and it's now. It's happening. Mm-hmm. We've been talking about it, those of us in academia anyway, and indeed with other companies, been talking about it for a long time. It's now almost got to this point where it's an accepted technology. It's very much on the roadmap of all of these big companies. And that can only be a good thing for the prospect, not just in telecoms and datacoms and AI, but also for all of the emerging applications. And that's areas where I work with Cornerstone can support.
Yeah, and Cornerstone has certainly been a leader of silicon photonics in the UK and a global presence. And is this something that you think can benefit Cornerstone to say, hey, we're here, we've been doing silicon photonics. Look at, look at this investment. This is something you need. Let's work together because we can help you develop what you need for data centers, for, energy efficiency and beyond.
Yeah, absolutely. You said it very well. I mean, not everybody's going to be able to walk straight in the door to TSMC and Coherent and Lumentum, right? You have to start somewhere. And that's exactly what we do with Cornerstone, is we support early stage prototyping, but in a scalable manner. So we have comparable but older technology to the big foundries. So we work on wafer scale. Processes are very flexible. So what that means is you can come to us, we can help you hone your technology before to help you get ready to then scale up at these other facilities.
And like you mentioned, not everyone has the funds that NVIDIA has, right? So how important is open source Foundry to other groups that may, again, don't have the deep pockets of a NVIDIA, but need to get into the silicon photonics game?
Well, we think it's very important, and that's what our customer base tells us as well. Like everything we have is open source. What we mean by that is the process design kits, the building blocks, if you like, our standard library is all available without them to sign a license. So what we're trying to achieve is just to lower the barrier to entry. So if you are thinking about starting out in the field and you just want to try something out, by removing those barriers of license agreements and non-disclosure agreements, all that type of thing, we're just simplifying it. So we hope that like that helps give people the chance to just have a go. We can support with that and make something, see what you think. Cornerstone itself mostly a foundry, but we are part of a big research group as well at the University of Southampton and Glasgow in the UK. And that's very beneficial because we can help companies where they may not have design expertise in-house, but they may have a specification they need to meet that they've identified photonic chips as a possible platform to do that. So we can, through Cornerstone, make these things, but through the research teams, actually help people with the design as well.
Fantastic. And we know there are a lot of applications that silicon photonics can find a home in, but certainly right now, AI is a driving force, if not the driving force, that's really getting investment. And NVIDIA both highlighting AI infrastructure for their big investments. So, how has this AI boom really just brought attention or maybe increased demand for this kind of technology?
Well, it very much has increased demand, and I think it is driven by all the things we know well: the height, the bandwidth, the energy savings that are possible, and that's like clearly required for the huge, great mobilization. I've heard the term used. I think I've read that it's the biggest private investment in hardware ever seen.
Huh.
And obviously, if we carry on doing data centers in exactly the same way we have done in the past, with the huge increase in demand for data, that's a huge increase in demand for energy. So either we need more power stations or we need to make the data centers themselves more energy efficient. And that's really what the benefits that silicon photonics can provide. And also it's something that we haven't mentioned, why silicon, not other form of like integrated photonics. I think the key there is that it's proven it's manufacturable at scale, which is exactly what AI is really demanding, right? So that's why silicon photonics, or photonics on silicon as it's becoming these days, and I think these announcements are very much a nod in that direction. This will be integration of other materials on top of silicon. But the beauty of using known technologies that's in the electronics industry for decades is that we know we can make these things at huge volume with amazing precision.
Fantastic.
That's like the driving force behind this. It meets the requirements of what AI is trying to achieve.
Very good. Professor Callum Littlejohns, anything else you'd like to add on this moment for silicon photonics, or kind of the bigger picture for what we can expect for the future?
One thing, I think that the announcements, I've read both the Lumentum and Coherent press releases, and in the thing that intrigued me around the wording is it's a lot of it around like onshoring the manufacturing capability. There seemed to be a focus around being able to do these things, particularly in the States. So we're based in the UK, so we're having similar discussions like what is required nationally in the UK for all of the same reasons that the US want: onshore sovereign capability. So I think these types of announcements are great for us with our messaging to government around what are we going to do in the UK. And I think it's clear that there are huge benefits to having onshore infrastructure. That's something that we're currently working on. We're getting huge demand from UK companies around there would be value in having such capability in the UK, and that's possibly something Cornerstone can support in the future. So let's see. I think the more noise that's made about the technology, the easier it is to us to make a case to government, and the easier it is for other companies to make a case to their investors that this is a great time to be investing in the field.
And certainly the global market can be pretty volatile. So if you can secure it at home, it just kind of makes things a little bit easier, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, well, Professor, thank you so much for giving me your time and your insight on this topic. We really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot for having me. Nice to chat.